Noah, welcome back, man.
Thank you, brother.
Just for context, we recorded this one about a week ago, but I wasn't happy with the production that we got off Zoom. So we switched to a new platform and we're going to go again because the stuff we talked about was really, I thought, inspiring and beneficial. So, yes, myself and Noah have been on and done these podcasts a few times now. We always have some really inspiring conversations and we always go deep. And this one, we're going to base it around what we'd call conscious or awakened leadership. This is a path that Noah is embarking on with his own work, and it's a path that I have been on this year, basically helping leaders, senior professionals, entrepreneurs to really step into the most aligned version of themselves, we could say, and what that means, because has been a big shift on the planet, and we talked about old leadership styles and what that means, and how people are stepping into leadership in this new paradigm and this new energy that's coming through on the planet. So let's start off where we left off last time, Noah. I mean, what does it mean to you if you had to sum it up? Awakened leadership, conscious leadership, and what does that look like in the work that you're doing at the moment? Welcome back, by the way.
Thank you, brother. Awakened, let's start with that, awakened and conscious. In the most simple way I can describe it, it is being aware of thoughts, being conscious, being present. So in contrast, when we're not awake, when we're not conscious, we are either just missing that our bodies are feeling, and you know, we're having sensations that affect us. We have feelings inside of us that you know, affect the room we're in. If we're leading a team, if we are with our families, or in any way, shape or form relating to people. And also, when we're not awake, when we're not conscious, we aren't aware that we are not the thoughts, right? So a lot of people have a lot of thoughts, like that's normal. We all have a lot of thoughts. Now, many of them are, you know, not beneficial. And especially in high pressure moments, or when our leadership and our presence and our, you know, greatest way of showing up is most needed, it can actually be the hardest. And that's why being present, being conscious, being awake is very important.
Yeah, it's a huge subject, isn't it? What does it mean to awaken? And I always describe it as the first step in awakening is what you talked about there, which is this, because it's talked about a lot, isn't it? We've got a woke culture, being woke or whatever it might mean, but it's actually nothing to do with that, really, from what we're talking about here. When we're talking about becoming awakened or conscious, it's nothing to do with the belief system. You know, that if anything, that takes us back into our conditioned self, the conditioned mind. What we're talking about here is the ability to witness your internal experience, you know, to go beyond the personality structure and all the beliefs and conditioning that make that up. And we're actually talking about being the ability to be able to observe our thoughts, our emotions, our energy, to step into that seat of awareness, as it's known, which you could say is our true self, which is this witness of our experience and our conditioning, rather than being caught up and lost in it, believing that we are the thoughts, the parts, the traumas and the condition that we've accumulated for our lives. So for me, that's what I always describe as the first step in awakening, is the ability to witness our thought process instead of being lost in it. And this is obviously ongoing work. I'm sure you would say the same, Noah. No matter how much work you've done, I mean, I've been meditating for about a decade now, working with plant medicine and shamans, etc. Still regularly throughout the day, I get lost in that personality structure, you know, believing that, and it happens very subtly, doesn't it? You can just disappear for 10 or 15 minutes on a thought path, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you remember who you are again, to remember to witness the the thought instead of getting lost in it. So it is an ongoing process of remembering and forgetting who we are. But for me, it's about shortening the time that we are lost in the conditioned mind as much as possible. And so that's why daily practices are absolutely essential. Without that, I think, like most people, like most humans, you are forever lost in your conditioning. But as you say, in leadership roles especially, this is important because we're at a heightened sense of stress and overwhelm on a regular basis. You probably see my cat has joined me here. Because of the extra pressure we're under. So it's extra important when you're leading a team to have that awareness and to cultivate the practices that can help you to stay awake as you go through your busy daily life. Because it's in times when we're in heightened stress and overwhelm that the parts tend to come to the surface, that the old patterns tend to come to the surface as a way to help us navigate those difficult situations. It's very, very easy to fall asleep in those times. But how would you say, what are the best practices you would say to help you then to maintain that awareness through the day, especially in times of overwhelm and stressful situations?
Good question. Great question. For beginners, I would certainly say becoming aware of the breath, or becoming aware of your feet. So like the breath is an ongoing sensation that you have available. So sensation is great because it's not a thought, right? And when you start to feel your breath, you slow down and you become, or you get into the present moment. So you become present. And from there, everything opens up with like so much more easily. It can be very difficult to just be the witness to your thoughts without anchoring your awareness into anything else. And that sort of already happens as you start watching your breath or start feeling the sensations of your natural breath going in and out. Then your attention will go back to thought, like for everyone. And in the contrast of feeling breath and then back into thought, you will notice more and more quickly when you get lost in your mind. So that's really helpful. Now, the other option that I recommend is the feet. Why? Because the feet are on the floor. They're like the farthest away from your head. And when we start to feel the ground, so if we're standing up, we can feel the ground. If we're sitting down and have our feet on the floor, we can feel the ground too. And the beautiful thing with that is the stability, feeling the physical stability and the support underneath us actually is very soothing for our nervous systems. And it creates a sense of stability. And where people so often look for, stability in, having things or like having their day like look the same, or like they're trying to control their environment. It's such an easy way to get more stability into your life by feeling and bringing awareness to what is actually stable. And yes, on a molecular level, nothing, or an atomic level, everything moves, right? But to our physicality, to our bodies, the ground, unless there's an earthquake or something shaking the ground, it is perfectly still. So feeling that and bringing awareness down there really helps out. And then like being aware of what's happening in your mind, being more of a witness to it, and the same for what's happening in the body is much more easy. And it sort of reveals itself as, a contrasting experience to watching the breath or feeling the ground with the feet.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I mean, essentially, the body is rooted in the present moment, isn't it? So if you can find your way back to the body in some way, you can find your way back to the present moment. And why is that important? Because that is essentially how we access our true self. Because when we're lost in the mind, we're essentially in our past conditioning, or we're projecting to the future. So it's always sort of trapped in time when we're in our thought process. So if you can find your way back to the body, either through the breath or the feet, or for me, I always say, like, can you find the most uncomfortable, unpleasant sensation in your energetic system? Might feel like a tightening in the stomach or pressure on the center of the chest. This is a bit more advanced, obviously, the work that we do. But if you can start to tap into where is the sensation in your center channel, lying down the middle of your body, then again, you found your way back to the body, you found your way back to the present moment. And that gives you a choice then, whether you, in terms of how you want to respond. Because if for me, it's, if we haven't connected with the present moment, then we are stuck in our parts, in our personality structure, in our patterns, and then we're kind of reacting. We're not conscious of what we're doing, so we're constantly making unconscious reactions the whole time. I mean, it's essentially what happens when you get in two people get stuck in an argument. Basically, there's two people stuck in a part. They're trapped in time, in a past version of themselves, and they're kind of playing out this past trauma with each other. And until somebody is able to find the present moment, remember who they are, then you will remain stuck. You've got two competing parts stuck in time. Basically, this is what happens you see it in politics, when they're kind of arguing with each other and whatever it might be. You've essentially got two human beings that are lost in their parts. So until somebody can find their way back to the present moment through the feet, through the breath, through the sensations in the body, then you will remain stuck in your past conditioning. And this is as long as we're in that place, then we're essentially going to repeat the same patterns. Until we can find our way back to our true self, we remain stuck in these patterns that we've been repeating in for lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes. So this is why this time that we're in is incredibly powerful, and we're incredibly privileged to be a part of, because there is a shift in consciousness happening on the planet. And if we're willing to ride that wave, then we can really accelerate our evolution. But a lot of people are obviously still clinging on to the past versions of themselves in fear. But if we're willing to go with this way, then we can have a tremendous benefit for our ongoing evolution as human beings. But what about your own story? This is something we haven't gone into when we talked previously. Your own journey towards this work. I'm interested to hear what brought you, because for me, I've talked about it many times on podcasts, my own dark night of the soul. And that was essential for me in sort of like being able to see and heal a lot of my old trauma, my shadow, through going through a really, really dark time with my own mental health. But is there anything you'd like to share about what brought you to this point? Because it usually involves some trial of fire at some point.
Man, it was a decades of the dark night. More like that. No, but so I got out of my first relationship when I was 16. And that was the first time where I got an insight into that what I was told, like what I was conditioned to believe, would make me happy, and how to love, and how to, what's important in the world. Like that wasn't true. So I started to wake up so I was very unhappy in that relationship, very codependent. And I had the good old, if I just love her more, everything is gonna turn out fine. That wasn't the case. After, it was 1.5 years, more or less. And then I broke up. And then, that didn't work. And then I'm also seeing around me, like in a suburb of Stockholm, Sweden, people living in, villas, nice houses, not anything crazy, but people have material wealth, I would say, comparatively to Earth at large. And people are like, oh yeah, I'm fine, and very, very surface level. But I could sense like, hey, like my mom had a lot of challenges in life, so, and she got us to live there, which was great. She worked really hard, but she was also very stressed. And then I saw the same thing with people around me, and that's when I'm like, hey, everyone is like false. People are pretending to be fine, but I can sense that they're not fine. And lots of like my friends, parents, got into divorces, and people cheating on each other, and all kinds of things. So I was like, wait, things are not working well. And then you have the world news, so about all the disasters and stuff that's happening in the world. I began questioning things really deeply, and then I looked for answers, and then I found Buddhism in a book first time. And perhaps a bit naively, one could say, but I read that book and then like checked out Buddhism a little bit more, and it's like, oh, my problem is that I'm not enlightened. That was my conclusion at 16. I'm suffering, and people are suffering because we're not enlightened. Like we're, we are suffering. That's the human condition.
Yes.
That's how I interpret it. Like we suffer, and we suffer because we have desires, and went on a decade-long quest to meditate my way to enlightenment, basically. While also being a teenage boy and young adult, and also needing to, have some friends and fit in. It was very challenging. And I had on the on the journey, I had a Kundalini awakening, super profound unity consciousness, and all that, and tons of really beautiful glimpses into our true nature and such things, but all of them faded. And every time I landed back in my, unbeknownst to me at the time, but I landed back in my dysregulated nervous system, and all the parts of me that I had fragmented from or split away from in order to survive my childhood. Not that I was in physical danger, but children, we need to stay connected to our parents, so we do what we can to do that. So 10 years in, that's when you and I met, and I've been trying really hard to wake up forever and be totally enlightened. But then I learned about the nervous system, and then I learned about childhood needs, developmental needs, and parts, internal family systems, and how parts of us that we've rejected, abandoned, can hijack us actually and control our lives and all this. And that was a huge eye-opener for me. Because once again, I thought I was just missing enlightenment. I thought all my suffering was purely spiritual. But turns out I had a very dysregulated nervous system, lots of trauma from my childhood, and just all these needs missing, and all these patterns on patterns built to buffer myself from the overwhelm of not getting my needs met growing up, and having to deal with a very a parent who suffered so much when I was growing up. So and now we're here, and we're sort of combining these things, right? We are combining these things. We're talking about awakening. We are talking about being conscious and that in that witness of all experiences. But now it's not all transcendence. Now we're actually embodying this consciousness and bringing awareness and love and care to our bodies and all our parts that had those missing needs, and connecting with each other, connecting with people to co-regulate and down-regulate our nervous systems. So yeah, it's been a hell of a ride.
What a journey. But yeah, it's essential, isn't it? Because one thing I know we talked about before is this importance of, first of all, healing yourself before you go out and try and help anyone else. Like, you first need to get yourself into a place of balance. Otherwise, you can go out into the world and want to help from a place of lack, and it's like you can do more harm than good, really. But that's what, same for me. I mean, you're talking about, in my instance, like 10 years of really just working on myself, healing myself. And I like what you said there, because I had a similar path. I found Buddhism and I was like, this is it. This is the answer. I just need to meditate and everything, all my mental health problems will be fine. And, I'll, obviously just feel happy all the time. I don't know what I was thinking, but it did definitely resonate with me, Buddhism, as a path, a first path towards healing myself and awakening. But what I discovered was that path is fantastic for what we talked about, raising awareness of your conditioned self and enlightenment, which is a kind of broad term, but basically it means, reconnecting with you, self-realization, rediscovering again who you really are, the witness of experience. But there's a whole other aspect to it called healing, which Buddhism doesn't really talk about too much. And I found that I was, meditating. I was raising awareness of my thoughts and these really painful emotions, but I wasn't really improving my mental health that much. I was just raising awareness of it, which is great. But that's why in the end I went on another path to rediscover, okay, I get it, raising awareness of who you are, but also with the healing aspect is what I'm missing. And so in the same way, I think that you talked about there, I found healers, coaches who were really knowledgeable in this area. If you talk to the great shamans of the Amazon and Shipibo people of Peru, there's a lot more to the journey of awakening than just sat meditating. There really is a lot of work involved in identifying and processing, realigning your energetic system, and a lot of that, it's great to have knowledge of that, but really that is a present moment felt experience. When you work with, like you've done, Noah, work with the plants, what happens in that space when you're working with a plant and it's helping you to heal and process stuff. Good luck trying to explain that, because a lot of it is happening on how would I describe it, but on another dimensional level, really. It's stuff that you couldn't talk about and bring back even if you tried, So I realized that with my trauma that I'd experienced, that I needed to go much deeper and work at a kind of much deeper level with the plants, with the great shamans of this world to work on that stuff. And that's a path I kind of recommend for people if they know that they've experienced a lot of heavy trauma in their life. I mean, just meditating on your own is not really going to cut it. You really need to work with the great healers, the experts. But coming back to what we're talking about today, it also doesn't have to be that. For many people, they haven't experienced, really deep traumas, but we've all experienced traumas, as you said, as a consequence of living in this society at this time. It's not our parents or our caregivers' fault. They did the best they could with the knowledge that they had. No one was talking about meditation and healing, 20, 30 years ago, so they did their best. But, we all have things to heal. We all have traumas. They may be smaller traumas, but we all have things we can work on. And so what would you say to someone now who's in a leadership position, perhaps in a professional or entrepreneur who's listening to this now and thinking, okay, this all sounds good, but where do I start? We talk about meditation as being a great framework, but then when it comes to healing, for me, there's a difference then. And you touched on it, I think, when you talked about not working on your own. But what made a difference for you in terms of your own healing journey?
Great question. I'm just feeling into it. Where I want to start.
Because we're talking about plant medicine. For some people, that's the right path. For some people, that's not the right path. You know, some people, not everyone's called to that path.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend, just plant medicines to everyone. It's really intense, and you need to have a certain. I think your nervous system needs to have a certain level of regulation, and you need to have a certain level of capacity to detach from the experience and just surrender and just let it be what it is, and just not try to control it. So it's incredibly potent if that is aligned with where you're at. When it comes to healing, so I'm going to share a little bit more about my story. So, as I mentioned, I learned that I had a very dysregulated nervous system, right? So what that means is that I was most often in a dorsal vagal state, which means I'm kind of shut down. I'm like frozen. I don't want to do anything. I feel kind of depressed and low. So I go from that to a very activated state, so like a lot of stress. And then, sometimes I'd be in a regulated state where I feel okay. But that's sort of my everyday life back in the day, like feeling shut down and low, or being really stressed and activated, and then going a lot into like a people-pleasing, fawning type of pattern. Because that worked for me when I was young. But so why we need others to heal is because healing means becoming whole. Now, if you are fragmented, if you are torn within yourself, like you never experienced. So what we need to consider is human beings, they are born and they grow into, the person they are, shaped and conditioned by their parents, societies, culture and values, and school, and etc. Now, if you've never experienced like being met with compassion, you can't give compassion to yourself. If you have not been held, not physically necessarily, but like in a space, in connection with just the other being totally okay with who you are, you cannot give that to yourself. So until you receive from another or from a group, because these woundings, these ruptures, they can happen one-to-one, of course, but they can also happen in groups, right? So we need basically an individual or a group to do the opposite of what happened to us. So if we were, let's say we got angry and we were, squashed, or, we got angry, our parents got angrier, we stopped being angry, for example. We need to be met with us being angry is totally okay. And that, when I started to have those experiences, oh my God. It's like, I think opening Pandora's box is a good and a bad example, because opening Pandora's box is not necessarily good, but oh my Lord, there was so many emotions and so many, just feelings I had repressed that I was containing. And, in Scandinavia, we're very, same with UK, very, very contained, holding it in to be appropriate. Right?
Stiff upper lip. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be too much, right?
Mm.
So I, you unconsciously, you just learn to hold it in. And then eventually it's just that you just don't feel the body, right?
Mm.
But so you need another person who's regulated, who's calm, who's grounded to be with you and be with your stuff.
Mm.
Because when you're alone, I mean, I think 99% of the time, if not more, you will just be looping in your stuff. Because number
Yeah.
one, you don't have contrast to that experience. You're just, this is just how I am and how life is. So you're like, it's hard to just witness it with total neutrality.
Mm.
And if your nervous system is already dysregulated, it's like, I mean, most likely you have not learned how to regulate your nervous
Yeah.
system yourself, because that is something we learn growing up by being around adults who are regulated themselves, and then we get the attachment and the connection and the co-regulation with our parents, which then like installs the the software update in us, like
Yeah.
this is how you do it yourself. But I never got that because no one in my lineage was
Mm.
regulated. Everyone is just traumatized and
Mm.
very stressed out, right? So yeah, that's why we need each other. That's why we need people to heal. And
Yes.
and some people, like you mentioned, the shamans, like or great healers. People have. It's not like, oh, now I'm regulated and now like I'm a healer, or whatever.
Mm.
Like, of course, mm, it's a lot of wisdom rooted in experience that makes for a greater healing capacity or helping people heal, right? And when we speak to energy, wisdom, awareness, and I think, like nervous system capacity, these things have depth,
Mm.
tremendous depth. Now, it's not very usual in at least Western societies and cultures to have people with tremendous access and openness and stability in their systems to have a lot of energy and stability and compassion and love within them to then be able to create those kinds of spaces for people to heal in. But I'm sharing this because that has made such a difference to me. Like, I used to see therapists when I was younger,
Mm.
and I'm just talking about stuff and they're just in their heads, and so we're just talking about stuff. Now, therapy can be awesome. It can be
Yeah.
great. I'm not shitting on therapy at all. I just want to highlight that it's been such a difference. And I had a therapist who was very grounded and embodied, and he was the best therapist I had.
Mm.
But yeah, there's a great range or a great depth that people have, hopefully, if they work as healers. And once again, when you spend time with someone like that and they meet you in the way that you need, what could take 30 years in therapy could be one session,
Mm.
because it just starts to come up and come out. And like, healing wants to happen all the time. You just need the right conditions.
Mm.
And what most people don't know is the right conditions is another person who's able to not just mirror you and like, tell you what's going on, but actually be there in the present moment, in the experience, in the way that you never got to have, right?
Mm.
So yeah, if someone's starting, they want to heal, don't try to do it alone, and definitely see if you can find someone who's doing healing work that's not just talk therapy.
Yes. like you said, that's a great entry point for people though to start off with, to just start talking about stuff. But exactly what you said, there's limitations there, because you essentially, like, because you're sharing from the mind, the other person is, like you said, in their mind, trying to give advice, talking through things. It's like you're still in the trauma. It's like you are re-traumatizing yourself. You might go into this experience again, and there's tears and sadness, but because there's no access to the body, it's not processing it. It's like the energy comes up and then it goes back down again, and then you talk about it again, it comes up, and then it goes straight back down to the system, because you have to, at the same time as you're reliving these experiences, you need to be feeling through them so the energy can actually move out of the body.
Yeah.
I love what you said there as well about healing. It always is it wants to happen. It's like the universe is always trying to bring itself back into balance. The example I use is like with the garden. I'm looking at my garden now, which has been kind of manicured in a way. You know, that we've removed the grass. We've got astroturf out there because we've got a little daughter, but we've got plants in pots. A lot of the plants have been cut back. There's no trees out there. But if I was to leave that garden alone for a couple of years, it would change. There'd be plants growing, there'd be trees growing, and as a result, then there'd be insects coming back into the space, which would bring birds back, which would bring small mammals back, which would bring larger mammals back. Essentially, what would happen is the garden, that area of the earth would start to bring itself back into balance, into harmony, for the benefit of all the creatures around here. But of course, we like our gardens manicured in a certain way, which is fine. But it just reminds me, in the same way, that if we're constantly meddling with our experience, in other words, thinking about our experience instead of feeling through it, trying to sort of cultivate our experience in a certain way. Oh, it should be this way, it shouldn't be that way. You know, just generally meddling in our internal experience with the mind. It restricts this healing process that can go on. So that's why it's important to have practices. I do it twice a day. I meditate on my own in the morning, and I meditate with others in the evening, you know, just to kind of regulate and clear out whatever's built up during the day. So it just gives my body, my system, chance to process any energies that are built up during the day. And the system will, as you said, if you just leave it alone, bring mind and body to rest, have access to a grounded system as support, what will happen is your body, in the same way as I'm talking about with the garden, the body will naturally bring itself back into harmony, into a harmonious place. It'll clear out all the stuff that needs to be processed, and it will align itself again with source, or whatever term you want to use for that. So it's really important. I always say there's three aspects: bring mind and body to rest, trusted support, and a dedicated daily practice of some kind. Whatever practice that appeals to you, it needs to be something you can do on a daily basis. That's where that term's energetic hygiene comes in. Like every day you brush your teeth, every day you should be doing some kind of practice that enables your system to bring itself back into a regulated place. And it's, as you said, it's very difficult to do that on your own, almost impossible, because you'll be stuck in your own stuff, your own trauma and conditioning. But beautifully explained, Noah. There's something else I wanted to ask you about what it means to be, you know, this idea of this new leader that's coming through. Because we talked about last time, the idea of this old idea of a leader would be very much in the masculine energy. You know, you see it in politics now, where it's like trying to control and dominate and push others aside, and, you know, take the resources before somebody else takes it. And so this idea of a leader would be someone who's kind of controlling and dominating and capturing and whatever else it might be. But this new version of a leader is much more rooted in the feminine, I would say. And there's three aspects, I believe, to what it means to become an awakened conscious leader in this time. And we talked about one of them, which is this continuous focus on healing. And this is the main aspect, I think. This is the bit that I see missing when I speak to senior professionals, entrepreneurs, and leaders in the space. It's like you're not doing the internal work on yourself. So you're constantly creating and manifesting from a place of dysregulation, and that's filtering out into the teams and your family and the people that you're working with. So I would say that's most important. Two other aspects for me that are really important to being this new version of a leader is continuous investment in self. So you need to be constantly learning, investing in your own healing, but also learning, investing in working with different coaches, teachers, shamans, healers, whatever it might be, because there's always more work we can do on ourselves, always more room to grow. The other aspect that I see as being very important is having a clear purpose or mission that can inspire others and it can drive us through difficult times when they come up. Interested to know your thoughts on that and the importance of a clearly defined, what I call outer purpose. Our inner purpose, I believe, is all the same, which is to be healing and aligning ourselves within. But in terms of an outer purpose or a mission, how much importance do you put on that? Do you see it as being equally as important as perhaps the healing practices that we talked about so far?
Good question. I mean, leader, it depends on what you're leading, right? Like if you're leading your, because in my definition of it, you could be a conscious leader or bring awakened leadership to your, I mean, if you're like a customer service team manager for, I don't know, some kind of project that's, or business that's not, super, oh, we're going to be of so much service to the world. It's more of a, just a capitalist business thing. Like, I think we can all show up as conscious leaders in any space, but if we're talking, like deep, having a deep vision or grand vision for ourselves as leaders, I guess we could say in any space, I would say that it is important to have a mission. But that mission needs to be, I mean, how should we say? The more I heal, the more I become whole, the more I recognize that we all belong here, The more conscious I become, the more I see that what we're doing is not coming from wholeness. It's coming from a lot of, I'm speaking to the things that are not working well in our worlds, the problems we face and the challenges. It's just very clear that they're rooted in fear, in scarcity, in greed, all kinds of, coming from all kinds of places where we don't really want to build things from, right? So I think that mission piece, the outer mission, the more you heal and the more you wake up to what you really are and the beauty of our world and our interconnectedness and all the things, all the good and beautiful things that reveal themselves, the more whole and the more conscious you become, I think that just fuels and just naturally brings you into that mission more and more. So if you don't feel that already, yeah, maybe more healing. And
always the answer.
Yeah. Because, and I mean, I'll say this, when I was younger, due to my patterns, I had this, how should I say? I had this, I have to save the world kind of thing. Because other people, they won't do it, they can't do it. That was just a reflection of how I grew up and how I felt as a child, which I didn't know at the time. And I think, why I'm mentioning this is because, as you said early in the episode here, you need to work on yourself. You need to be, I wouldn't say like completely whole. I think we don't have enough time for people to be completely whole before we can start being of service. But you need to have some degree of wholeness and wellness inside of you. Like, you can't be completely under-resourced and be of service. It just doesn't work. And believe me, I tried. So we can make up these grand visions and purposes and such things from that distortion, from that pattern. So why I'm saying this is because the more we heal, the less distorted we will be, the more grounded, centered, like also like we know our limits, we know our capacities more, right? We know our weaknesses, and then we can actually be of more service, right? The more we own our shadows, the more we are whole and well within, the more regulated, grounded, calm, everything, the more we can actually contribute, but not from this perhaps, grandiose and
From an
naive
ego
place.
place.
Yeah, from an ego place. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that was a lot. But to answer your question, I do think it's very important with the mission and purpose. And I think it sort of just naturally comes to you as
You're
you
right.
get to know yourself and become whole.
Yeah, you're right. It does. What I've noticed in my own journey as well, but enough focus on yourself and healing yourself, there's something comes through eventually where it's like, okay, I brought myself into a position now where I feel fairly balanced, regulated within myself. Now there's a calling to help others in some way. But again, you can't rush that. I think, as you said, if you do it too quickly, then you are going to, could be at the detriment of yourself. So, oh yeah, I want to build a business, I want to make money, I want to help lots of people. But if you're coming from a place of lack in your system, scarcity, stress, and overwhelm, then number one, it's highly unlikely to have any effect if building something for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, it probably isn't going to do a great deal of good, if you're coming from that place within yourself. But I agree, and this is why I always say to people in my programs are very much focused on what I call inner purpose first, which is okay, get yourself into focus on yourself. Nothing wrong with that. Like really focus on yourself, start clearing away some of this old conditioning and trauma, start raising your own energy levels, and then you can overflow and help others, but not from a place of like, I have to save the world or I'm not good enough, which is a kind of a common thing. I think I definitely noticed that in myself at times. It's like, in order to feel good enough within myself, I have to help this amount of people, or I have to be responsible for shifting the world's consciousness, whatever it might be. For me, it's just like, okay, number one, most important, my own healing, my own well-being. Okay, if that's in a good place. Number two, my immediate family, my wife and my daughter. Okay, let's make sure I give enough support and energy to them. And then if I've got some time and energy left, I can go and serve at a wider scale, through something like a business. And I do think that it's really important then to get clear on things like, okay, if you are going to go down that path, entrepreneur's path, get clear on things like passion and values and mission. Then what is it that who do you want to help and how do you want to help them? I think that is really important then when you're building a business, but it's not essential. As you said, if your mission is basically to heal and evolve yourself, and then serve those that are closest to you. That's something I see in the entrepreneurial space. It's like, yeah, I want to have this massive impact on the world and help all these people, but then you're not focused on the people that really need you. Your partner, your children, your parents, whoever it might be. It's like, well, they don't get as much support as they need because I've got this grand mission to save the world. So number one, focus on yourself. Make that your main priority. And number two, those people that really rely on you, make sure that they're looked after as well. And then, add on top of that if you want by helping people at scale. But I think you described that really well. It sort of comes through, I think, when you've done enough work on yourself, the desire to want to then go and serve at a grander scale. But there's no rushing that, that's for sure. Beautiful. Well, let's leave it there, shall we? I know you've probably got a lot of things to move on with, but anything else you'd like to add, or anywhere you'd like to point people to at this point? I know you've got your own social channels.
Yeah, I mean, learn to embrace yourself as good as you can. Like, God, that will serve you throughout all of life. And if you want to go into the healing journey, like, you know, people are like, oh, I'm gonna heal and then it's gonna be great. But it's
Mm.
like, no, it's like, oh, now, because part of the healing for, I think most people is like, oh, whoops, now I was a shitty person, and now I'm actually owning that, or now, you know, I let someone down, or I let myself down, or now I'm feeling, you know, absolutely super angry or super
Mm.
sad. Like, we're talking about wholeness, right? And wholeness is like having, not just being happy. And I'm like, some people might hear this and be like, what, am I gonna feel worse? It's like, I mean, yeah, in the beginning, most likely. Because you're gonna start to feel the things you have
Yeah.
avoided. But, you know, then it starts to clear out, you feel better, but you're in your wholeness still, so you can still get angry,
Yeah.
like that. And that's actually so nice and so grounding. And I think what a lot of people, I know a lot of people, I shall say this, I know a lot of people who have really appreciated when leaders have been authentic,
Mm. It's a good point.
right? So not, you're not doing this to become some kind of perfect person. You're doing this so you can be whole and have capacity for your full range of emotions without just letting them fly out on other people at random, but just you being, I can, you know, you can feel anger, you can feel shame, you can feel grief, you can feel joy, you can feel bliss, you can feel all of it without going into some kind of pattern and reacting in a certain way. And also you can be authentic then,
Yeah.
which is, I mean, I think we're all kind of looking around the world and we're like, why are the leaders lying? Why are they, you know,
Mm.
not being true and honest and all that? So authenticity, deep connection to yourself, um, it comes by embracing yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I want
That's
to
a great
say.
point. That's probably,
Yeah.
if there was a fourth point, that would be it, the authenticity piece. Because this is what, again, what I see lacking a lot on social media is this kind of projection of the side that we want the world to see. The success. Oh, I'm a
Yeah.
success. I'm happy. I've got a great
Mm.
relationship. I got all this money. I got the perfect business. But of course, this is something I've always tried working on myself. Is like, okay, when I write this post, can I actually be truthful about what's going on right now? Not just say, oh, you
Yeah.
know, my business is great and I went through some tough times and now everything is perfect, because that's not being truthful. It's like, I mean, we
Mm.
before we started recording today, we just sat for 10 minutes together, didn't we? And just felt through what was
Mm.
there, because there was stuff in your system, there's stuff in my system. And I love what you said, because it's not about, you know, our coach that we work with says this quite a lot. It's not about resolution healing. It's not like I will never experience depression again. I will never experience grief again. I'll never experience anger again. It's like, it's not about that. It's about being able to be with your present moment felt experience, whatever that contains.
Yeah.
So you can be with, okay, wow, there's a lot of depression in my system today. And instead of like trying to numb that or push it away or deny it, it's like, okay, I'm going to sit and feel depression for as long as it's here for, you know, and just let it move through in its own time. And it obviously, that's what we talk about support. It's really important to have support while you're feeling through this really difficult stuff, because you can just kind of loop in it if you're on your own. But likewise with any emotion, it's just about, can you permission it? Can you be with
Yeah.
it? And that really is what we're talking about. The most important skill, I always say, that you can develop is your ability to be with what is. You know, can you be with what is present right now? And yes, and then, as you said, a great trait for a leader is to be able to be honest about that. But these are the kind of leaders that I follow. The podcast that I love is the leaders that are able to just be completely honest with what they're experiencing, their flaws, their challenges, the emotions that they're going through, instead of a lot of teachers in the space, a lot of coaches will just kind of talk about how great their life is and how they never share the challenges or the difficulties that come up, which makes it very difficult to relate to them then in an emotional way. So
Yeah.
great point. yeah, about being
Mm.
an awakened leader, you could say, is that ability to be authentic, to really be honest with your experience, and to know that you'll never be healed. There's no completely healed or completely evolved. There's always more work to be done, almost more stuff to feel through.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lifelong path, huh?
Mm.
Yeah, I think if you, which, I did when I started out, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this so I never have to feel this again.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to be eternally happy. But that's not the way it works, right? Like, I mean, even Jesus had his challenges.
Oh yeah.
Like
Go on. Know that.
every, if we call it, every realized being of our world, they've been challenged.
Yeah.
They've had pain. They've had all kinds of trouble. But in their realization, they can also just let it be.
Mm.
Yeah, beautiful, man. Yeah, I'm on Instagram,
I
Noah
will. Do you know what I'll do? I'll put
Thunholm.
your links
Yeah,
underneath
okay,
this video
awesome.
on
Yeah,
YouTube, so people can check
sweet.
Noah out. I know it's a kind of new direction you're going in. It's interesting that we're kind of converging on a similar path. So
Yeah.
always love connecting. Always love sharing. What your knowledge with as many people as I can. And I always say it's like you can't fake energy. And whenever I'm around Noah, I can just sense this very grounded presence. And also, I'm sure anyone listening to this could feel that Noah's an old soul. Is whatever that means. I wish I'd had his level of awareness when I was your age. Would have saved me decades of difficulties. But yeah, you just got it. I
Yeah.
think. However, it came into your life, you've got that gift.
Thank you, brother. Yeah. It kind of sucked when I was a teenager, though. You feel I felt like an 80-year-old man in a
Yeah, yeah.
18-year-old body. It was hard to relate and connect.
Same
But
here.
yeah, I think it's worth it today.
It's worth it today. And where are you going to be when you're 50, 60? Who knows?
Exactly. Yeah, that's really exciting. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining, brother.
Thank you, brother. It's a
And let's
pleasure.
catch up again soon. Beautiful conversation.
Totally. Yeah, let's do that.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye for now.